welcome to Tea and Talk. I'm your host, Olivia Boughton. Today, I am joined by Mr. Mike Audette. Mike, thanks so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you, and we will get to chatting very shortly. But first, we'll talk about the tea. So today, we're sort of in a hummingbird garden, if you will. We got flowers here, we've got hummingbirds everywhere, so we're I guess celebrating the ending already of summer. We're getting to the end. School's going to start soon, all that jazz, which we'll talk about that, I'm sure. So I don't have a matching set today, but the two cups that we have here are from the same designer. So you've got a lovely flower on a petal and a little butterfly in there, and mine has some flowers on it with this nice little hummingbird design on the saucer. So very fun for today. And I'm serving us a black tea that is flavored with peach and ginger.
Nice.
So I just love that flavor combination. Have done that as iced tea, but we're gonna have it hot today. And I do have some sugar and a little bit of cream if you are interested in that. But let me pour you a little tea. Whoops.
Awesome. Thank you.
Don't want to break anything here. I haven't done that yet, but first time for everything. So would you like some sugar?
No, I'm okay, actually.
Okay.
Plain, just great.
Just
Awesome.
plain.
Thank you.
All right. You're very welcome. So many of my guests take their tea plain, and I feel like I'm the odd one out. I always want to have a little bit of sugar at least. A little bit of sugar for me, and probably a little bit of cream. Just a touch. So I can already smell the peach. It smells so good. All right. Well, cheers, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Cheers.
Thank you.
A little sip. I'm sure it's hot.
That's really nice.
Good. Smells nice. Smells like summer.
It does, yeah. It's going by way too fast.
I know. So, Mike, let's start talking about you. So tell me about your childhood, where you grew up, what life was like for a young Mike.
So I grew up here in Rutland. I was born and raised here. Was born in the city and then moved to Rutland town when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, I think.
Okay.
I have those dates wrong. But we actually grew up, my first house was down right down on Meadow Street, and then we moved over to Center Rutland after that. And my mom and I lived over there for pretty much all the way until I went to college. Went to Rutland Town School, then on to Rutland High School.
Okay.
It was a really kind of fun grow-up childhood. We had a really nice neighborhood, a lot of young people same age as me. A lot of time we spent together out. We grew up right by Dewey Field over in Center Rutland, so we spent a lot of time there, spent on the backside of Pine Hill. So even before Pine Hill Park was there, we would spend hours after school. It's funny nowadays, you think like kids, everybody's so like, oh no, where are our kids? Where are they going? Everything like that. My mother would be like, okay, you're home from school, go.
Goodbye.
And we would be climbing up, Pine Hill on the trails before they were really marked out up there and stuff like that, and building campsites and forts and all these other things. So it was a great childhood. And then during high school, obviously I went to Rutland, made a lot of great friends there, was involved in music, sports. So it was a nice, kind of well-rounded experience.
So you were involved in music. What did you do? This is news to me.
So
tell me.
When I was younger, my mother was really good friends with the music teacher at Rutland Town School, Mrs. Kokenauer, and so she got me involved with playing the trombone, like at a young age. So I always struggled with the reading of the music part. So it was kind of a challenge at first, but again, it was another really avenue to like meet different people. Made a lot of great friends in that. We would go on band trips to New York City, to the Great Escape, to music festivals, different places. So that it was nice having that mix of both being involved. When you went to school, you had your academics, had athletics, but also the art side of it. And I think that helped it become really a well-rounded experience. So I did that all the way up through my junior year of high school. So it was a good, it was a good experience. I think it was, benefited me in a lot of ways. It's too bad in a way I maybe didn't continue some of it, but
I was gonna say, right? Do you still play? Sounds like
no, I don't. Somebody asked me, it was like, "Do you think you could do it now?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I could read the music anymore." Like that may be the challenging part.
Yeah. It's fascinating how when you don't do something for a period of time, even when you've done it when you used to do it for a long time, that break, you just kind of lose it, right? And I think you can get it back, but it takes a lot of effort and then, sort of discipline to keep at it.
And the reading and the music part was always a little challenging. I relate it back to like it's like a math class almost, and so that was a little challenging for me too sometimes. So I was like both of those two things, but I could always.
Was math not your favorite subject?
Not my favorite subject. Sorry to all the math teachers I had out there, but it was interesting though because I always had a talent where I could hear music, and I feel like I could play it back after that, and then I could more read the music easier. But it is a skill. It's one of those repetitious skills that I always wonder, if I tried it again, what would I be able to do? And
well, it's never too late.
I know, yeah.
Never too late.
Apparently, somebody approached my mother recently and was like, "Oh, does Mike still have his trombone or something?"
Oh,
and
that's
We
funny.
donated it back to actually that music teacher's daughter is a music teacher as well to use. Because I thought, some younger person should take advantage of that as well and be able to use that.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's able to today, afford an instrument or be able to have access to those things. So I thought, well, if we can give that back to somebody, that would be really good.
Yeah, which is very nice. Very nice.
Yeah,
so that instruments don't just sit in a closet or in the attic or in the basement and,
they're meant
collect dust.
They're meant to be played.
They are. They are.
So that was a good slice of sort of what I've experienced, and then obviously I had athletics. I was involved in cross country running and track, so this was a great community to grow up in when we were younger. And it really still is, but it was a unique thing back in the 1980s and 1990s where culture was different back then. It's kind of there were so many young people and very very kind of small neighborhood feel. And
you didn't have handheld devices.
Exactly.
And that's a big difference.
It is.
That's a big difference. To amuse yourself, you had to go out and do something.
It does, yeah. My kids make fun of me. They're like, "Hey, Dad, how was life back in the 1500s?" And I get kind of what they're saying because I'm trying to think back. The technology we had.
Oh my gosh,
a
Walkman.
Yeah, I tried telling students in school that I have that well, what kind of technology do you have? I said, well, we had dial-up internet.
Yep.
They have no idea what that is.
Right, all these strange sounds.
That you would, if somebody called in, they had call waiting on the phone.
Call waiting, yes.
You would tie up the phone line with a busy signal.
Yes.
They're like, what's a busy signal?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yep, exactly. I know.
But it was,
the good old days.
Nintendo, Sega Genesis.
Oh my
those
gosh.
were great days. But no handheld devices. It really was. Go outside.
Yes.
Go spend time with each other. Spend time at each other's houses. And I think that it was a good community building thing because you were sort of made those interpersonal relationships.
Right, you're almost forced to, right? Otherwise, you were just bored inside the house,
right.
Or you were driving your parents nuts, and they were like, "Get out,"
Exactly.
Like,
go
you just
play,
said,
go.
your mother said, right?
Exactly.
You got home from school, bye-bye,
So I really did. I loved growing up here. I mean, there's so much to. People say sometimes, "Oh, there's nothing to do." I'm like, you have to take advantage of the beauty that's around us. And I had a friend recently say to me, "Hey, Mike, we complain about living in Rutland, or we complain about living in Vermont, and our kids complain." I said, "But there's a reason that people come on vacation here and buy second homes here. We get to live where people want to vacation, and that's, I think, something that I wish more people would sort of see and know."
Yeah.
As it really is, if you take advantage of the beautiful nature that's around us, get outside, go for walks, go for hikes, go for a bike ride, swim, it can be really amazing. And that's, I've appreciated it, I think, as I've gotten older, whereas when you're younger, you don't.
No, and that's natural.
Right.
I think, when you're younger, you're looking far out, you're looking to the horizon and the grass is always greener.
It is,
somewhere else. But then as you do get older, you come to appreciate how great sometimes you had it, or how great your community actually was and still is. And you just see things from a different perspective.
It is, yeah.
Yep. So then after high school, what happened?
So I had the same bug that, pretty much every, high school senior in this area has, or in a small town. You're like, oh, I want to get out of here. I want to go see something different. And so my mother had me looking all over the place at different colleges. We went and looked at places in insanely rural areas. We looked at places in Connecticut and Massachusetts. But I ended up deciding to go to the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. We did a trip down there. I found it randomly as freshmen in high school, we had to do this college search as part of a career class that you took freshman year.
Yep.
I found it in a book and I was like, oh, different states, different. I was like, oh, District of Columbia, this is neat. I've been to D.C. before.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, Mom, we'll go down and we'll look at it, which terrified her because It's a long way away.
It's a long way away. It's a
in
big
city. And, you know, and it was culturally different and everything.
Yes.
And I went down, and I tell people that I work with now, I work over at Castleton too, and I say to them, you know, anybody looking at a school, like, you have to feel like when you walk onto a campus that this could be your home.
Yep.
You know, this could be where you want to live because you're going to spend so much time there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there were places that I looked, I was like, yeah, it's nice, it's got good academics, you know, okay, the athletic stuff is nice here, but it just doesn't feel right, you know. And when I walked onto the campus down there and into the city, I just had that feeling. And I remember sitting at a restaurant in Georgetown with her and being like, you know, I want to go here, this is where I want to be. And it was a challenge financially for us. I mean, it was a little bit more expensive than some of the other places that we looked at, but in the long run, I'm really glad I had that experience. One thing I really liked about DC, that while it is a big city, it's very neighborhood specific. So when you live in one of these small neighborhoods, they're very, you know, the identity of this kind of subsection of the city, you know, the diversity that exists there, and each section of the city has its own sort of feel and vibe, and people are very passionate about living there. So you think about people that really love the Rutland area and really throw their heart and soul into it and want to help it thrive and grow.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You get that feel in the neighborhoods in Washington, you know, sort of away from the touristy areas. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, everybody says, oh yeah, you get to be around the monuments and all this other stuff all the time. I said, you know, you don't really end up going there that much once you're there. I loved going to the side neighborhoods and, you know, going to different areas where, you know, there were just different cultural, you know, experiences, you know, and again, the diversity of all the people that you meet and experience. So it gave me a completely different perspective of life in a sense, and it allowed me to meet people that I wouldn't probably have met had I not taken that leap. And I think it made me also appreciate where I was from too, because you know, just you're in an area where it's loud. It's, you know, you're taking subways, you know, there's buses everywhere, there's planes everywhere, there's sirens all at night. I remember coming home and being shocked how quiet it was when I would come home on breaks and be like, there's no sirens, there's no, you know. But it was a really wonderful experience. I met probably some of my, you know, closest friends that I have, because, you know, you live together. And so
it's a different
vibe,
experience.
and obviously we live in all different places, you know, across the United States now, but, you know, that bond from being there. And I will say the school even had more that sort of small school feel to it. It was only undergraduate, about 3,500 students. So you knew enough people that were in your classes, and you know, and so you were able to sort of see people on a daily basis, and so there's a real kind of drawback to that, so kind of that family sense too. And so I felt it was a continuation of sort of what I experienced at Rutland Town and in high school and so forth. So that was a great experience. I actually wanted to stay there when I graduated. You know, I loved it there. I thought, you know, I was young. You know, you're in your 20s, and you're like, okay, let's, you know. Have any family? I was like, let's go, let's do this. But the challenge of affording housing in an urban environment was even really challenging back then. You know, we looked trying to get roommates, but you were going to be in an area of town where there wasn't any public transportation. It was
it becomes more complicated.
So it didn't really just financially work out. So so that was, but again, I'm glad I did that. I think, you know, I love going back there and visiting. It's one of those places where I can go back to and it still feels kind of like home.
Feels comfortable.
It's and it's the same type of vibe, like that kind of small town feel, even though it's a larger city. So
So what did you study while you were there?
So I went in thinking pretty much that I wanted to be a history major, which is what I declared sophomore year. But they actually, at the school, they have the graduate programs are actually larger than the undergraduate programs, and it has a large philosophy department. I'd never taken a philosophy course before in my life. But they require you to take 2 of them your freshman year. So you have to take a classical course and a modern course. And so I got into the classical course, and it really is true. You know, the teacher makes a lot of the difference.
Yes, absolutely.
And I had this really dynamic, exciting teacher, you know, for both of them. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. You know, and of course people make fun of it, philosophy, like you sit around and go, why? You know, like, but you know, the focus really was not on, like, you know, just read and memorize. It was more take what was being presented to you, read these ancient or more modern documents, you know, these writers, and then pick up where they left off. And ask big questions about, like, you know, instead of just asking questions like, well, what are you alive? Well, what does it really mean to live? What does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean to have a fulfilling life and a good life? I think those are essential questions that everybody should ask.
They should.
And it opened, and it wasn't one idea. They would present all different viewpoints and all different, philosophical ideas and theories and so forth. So you had to take 2 classes. And I said, well, okay, a minor is only 6 classes. So I was like, why not?
Okay,
Let's just do this. And so I did the 6 classes. I stayed for some summer classes, which were really awesome because you had like small groups, so like 6, 7 people.
Right, much
a
more
couple
intimate
days a week.
setting. Yeah.
I mean, they were difficult, that's for sure. But that was a really good decision because I think I still really enjoy those things. It makes you think a little bit different. So I ended up graduating with a history major and the philosophy minor. Both of which everybody said to me, what are you going to do with those?
Right.
I didn't...
Kind of limited, I mean, you're going to either be in a sort of scholarly situation where you're maybe writing papers, doing, research, whatever, or you're going to teach.
Which I had virtually no interest in doing when I was younger, which is funny now considering because I went through all of school. My mother was an elementary school teacher for 40 plus years at Rutland Town. So, of course, most kids are like, I don't want to do anything that my parents are doing. That's nothing I want to do.
Nope.
So I went into college not having any plan to do that. So I kind of graduated thinking like, all right, so maybe I'll go on and do some graduate work. And so I decided to go on and do some graduate work in philosophy and theology at Mount St. Mary's University for a year. But even then, I wasn't like, I don't think I like teacher, like whatever, And so I ended up coming back here after that, and this was 2005. Moved back in with my mother, and I was like, well, I need a job. So they hired me at Rutland Town as a paraeducator.
Oh, okay.
With elementary school kids, which was really interesting. Again, I'd never really worked with that age group. I loved it though. I mean, like the energy of being around that every day and being able to just kind of work with students on things that they need enrichment on and reinforcement on and stuff was really rewarding.
I'm sure you could see results.
Exactly.
Yeah. More easily.
Yeah. Scary part is they're all like 25 now.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about that.
Don't talk about that.
No. We don't talk about how long ago these things happened or the age of those children now. But
and so I did that for a year, and it was a really rewarding experience. I got to also, I think, see what teachers were doing on a different level than just being in the classroom, which was good, I think, and sort of thinking, okay, maybe this is something that I would want to do. And then at the end of the year, they had to do some reductions due to enrollment and things like that. And so I was, because I was new, it was like, well, you're kind of on the chopping block.
You're top of the list. Yeah.
So I ended up, going, getting to like that August, and my mother's like, well, you got to get a job. You got to do something. You can't just. And I remember very distinctly, I was out on Lake Bomazine on my kayak, and I had the old, brick cell phones back then in my pocket, and like it went off, and it was one of the teachers at MSJ was becoming the principal, called and said, hey, I have an opening because I need someone to teach religious studies classes because that was my position. Would you be interested? And I'm like, not calling back. I don't want anything to do with this. Made the mistake of saying it to my mom, who then is like, you need to call back.
Okay,
and just,
so let me pause you there.
Yeah.
So why was your first instinct like, no?
I actually had somewhat of a like, well, I've worked with these younger kids. That's more, more interesting. Like maybe I want to pursue that.
Right, versus high school.
And I had no, like, I'm remembering like myself in high school.
Nightmares,
yes.
right? Nightmares. I know.
Not having any experience in it really, other than some of the graduate work that I did and the undergraduate work and the degrees. But I said, okay, well, I'll hear it out. I'll meet. And once I had the conversation and sort of heard about the school and learned more about the culture and the community and the students, I said, you know what? I have my mother to help mentor me. This individual can help mentor me too. And it kind of took the leap of faith, so to speak, took the fly on it. And it was nerve-wracking at first. I mean,
I'm sure.
I think this was like, August, I get in there, the end of the month, here I am, the first period, and there's like 26 high school seniors staring at me from the seats.
Oof.
First period of the day. And I'm like, oh no, they just smell weakness right now. They just, But I don't want to say I learned on the fly, but I found that meeting them where they were at, and then building on that, and sort of being able to, the nice thing I liked about the school is being able to sort of personalize what I was presenting
Yes.
to them, and being able to sort
Yes.
of, tailor it to their experiences, their
Yes.
needs, what
Yeah.
they knew,
Yeah.
and building that trusting relationship where they, saw me as someone who, could help them, and I learned oftentimes as much from them as they would learn from me. And so that was a really rewarding experience with its challenges, but that ended up being, right now that's 17 years ago, I think. Yeah, so.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And I have found myself saying this to other guests that, you have these plans for yourself in life, and then something happens, whether it's just chance or what it is,
Right.
who knows? And suddenly you find yourself on a totally different path that you never foresaw, and yet it becomes something that is so rewarding and meaningful and actually fits your life and your personality and your disposition better than what you might have
It
thought
does.
was best for yourself.
I did, and I still, even in that first year, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm just going to, pack
Yeah.
up and move back to DC. Like, this is going to be, and, things happen that you don't expect. And so,
Right.
I take the job at the school, and within 2 months, I get invited to sort of a get together to kind of meet different people in the school, and there's my future wife standing there, which again, you don't think like, I'm going to go over to, somebody's house for pizza.
Right.
And you meet this person,
Yeah.
and then, so, here we are. So I look at that and going like, I think there's reasons things happen. I think there's reasons that you're sort of guided in certain ways that may not be what you thought
I
you
agree.
were going to be doing. But
I
at
agree.
the end, it's so much better and so much more fulfilling probably than what you thought for yourself.
Yeah.
So, I'm incredibly blessed and lucky in that regard that.
Yeah, because we can only see, a very small window of
Right.
opportunity for ourselves, right? That's just how our minds work, typically. And we don't know what is coming in the future and how that might be better for us
Right.
than what we in this moment know. I always say hindsight's 20/20, right? Because if you knew in that moment in the past what you know now, you would probably make different decisions or feel
Right.
differently about the path that's
And
unfolding in front of you.
And you have moments, I every morning
Sure.
I kind of get up and I, walk with the dogs, and you have that quiet time to kind of reflect and, think about things. And, I think to myself, like, one little different decision here or one little
Yeah.
different decision there,
And
here-
what would your life be
where-
like?
Right, where,
Yeah.
where's this wonderful person I'm with? Where are, where are these 3 wonderful children that I have? I mean, living in this community, we have a beautiful home, have, friends,
Yeah.
all the things that are available to us around here, it's going like, there's a reason things happen, I think, and it's been very, it's been very rewarding in that sense. So, but it is crazy how life throws you that curveball, because you just,
Yeah,
you almost
I
like
hear
you
ya.
got to get out of your own way sometimes.
You do.
And-
Yep. I think that's an important lesson.
Yeah.
That if we all got out of our own way and got out of our heads, we might actually all be a lot happier.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a-
and feel more fulfilled.
Yeah, there's a surefire way to go mad is, trying to control every situation and completely direct everything.
Absolutely. So, oh geez, maybe I need a sip of
little
tea. A little sip of tea here. So you taught for a long time,
did.
and now you have a different role. So tell me about
I-
how that came
So-
about and how that is right now.
So if you haven't picked up yet, I don't do that well with change sometimes. So
Who does, Mike?
no,
Who does? No one.
So getting into the teaching role was kind of not challenging, but wasn't expected, and I was very happy there. I mean, I love being in classroom with students. I think it's one of the reasons why I stayed in it and found it so fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why over the years, like, I got involved in coaching and
Yeah.
working with people for something that hopefully will benefit them, and but also you benefit and learn yourself.
Right.
So, I would have been totally content sort of like humming along in that role. I think that and I will say that, I'm still doing that too, which is one part of this. However, the former principal who retired going on 2 years ago now, had mentioned to me probably 2 years before, coming right out of the COVID shutdown, he said, what are your what are your future plans? Like, what's your career goals? And my wife had kind of been saying the same thing to me, like, well, what's your next step? What's your, and I'm like, well, teaching.
This
I'm like,
is the next step.
because, I look at it as like, well, my mother taught. She never wanted to go any, that was totally, everything for 40 years. So he kept kind of trying to push me. He's like, I think you need to take the next step. And so reluctantly, I kind of said, okay. So I took on a role as sort of like an assistant principal type thing, which basically I was dealing with helping navigate sort of, day-to-day operations and just helping with, any type of student, concerns or meeting with parents and things like that. So he could kind of be free to more focus on some of the upper administrative level things. It worked out really well. I didn't mind it. It was a different perspective. I think it helped that I stayed in the classroom too.
Yeah, it gives you that balance.
It does. And I think I was able to, students were able to build that relationship
and the
still.
connection, yes.
So if I had to have a difficult conversation with a student, I had already had them in class every day, and so I could at least, there was that relationship that was there, which I think was very important.
Yeah.
And so we kind of helped. It was an interesting time because you were navigating out of the shutdown and all that.
Yes.
Kind of the the ripple effect of that.
Yes.
And then the next year, he ended up having some health issues, and I ended up having to fill in sort of as interim for a few months, which again, I was like, oh boy. And I was really sort of like, okay, what does this mean? What do I?
Yeah.
And at the end of that, and again, he did amazing things for the school. He really did it. I'm grateful for, whatever I learned about this role. A lot of it I learned from him, obviously. And, he decided to, retire. And so then came the other decision. My wife's like, maybe you should put your name into this, and I'm like, oh no, maybe I just stay what I'm doing,
maybe
and that's fine. But I thought to myself, well, what's the harm? Apply.
Yep. You could always say no if you're offered the position. Yep.
It's fine. Somebody did say that to me. They're like, if you don't like it, just say no.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was intriguing about it was, when you're in a subordinate role. I mean, obviously you're shielded from a lot of like bigger decision making, but you can't necessarily make decisions that maybe you think would be beneficial to the school or to the students.
True.
So I interviewed. To be totally honest with them, I said these are my strengths. These are the areas that I think I need to grow in. This is why I love this community and why I think that it's so important to our local community. And lo and behold, I was offered the job. So I accepted. I mean, with some, trepidation. It's any type of change like that
is. Of course, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah. But however, with that being said, I still stay in the classroom, which it's a challenge. It's
I'm sure.
There's a lot sort of trying to dance that around, and it isn't always a perfect fit necessarily. If I have to get pulled out of a class because of something that's going on in the office or something, but. It's been a really rewarding experience. It's a whole different perspective that comes with, challenges that you don't see, necessarily as a teacher. Thankfully, you don't. You become not just educating, staff management, working collaboratively with other people, with teachers, with board members, with community members. I have an amazing support staff around me, which I look at it as a team approach. It's not a one-person type thing, and especially at a school like MSJ, it's just, we're all in this together. We're all trying to do what's best, for the students at the end of the day.
That's a great attitude to have.
Yeah, that's important. And the superintendent said that to me when I was hired. He said, just ask yourself the question every day, how is this help and better the experience of the student? How is this serving the students that are here? And so try to look at it that way. And but it does come with those challenges. You don't realize that you're also becoming like a business manager. You're becoming a facilities manager.
Yep, everything.
And we had some pretty urgent things that had to be done when I got in there. And thank goodness. I mean, we have an amazing development director. We have an amazing team. The alumni, obviously, as you know, are unbelievably supportive of the school. Through their generosity. I mean, we had to put a new roof on both the gym and the original building of the school this year. I mean, right out of the gate. Yeah. But I mean, they allowed us to do that without incurring any debt. I mean, it was kind of blew me away how supportive the community is. So it's a really special place, and I think that I want to try to do what I can to help it grow and help it move forward, and in whatever time I'm there.
Yeah.
to the best of my ability.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful attitude, and I know that not only MSJ but the whole Rutland community is blessed by that kind of attitude. So thank you for that. And
yeah.
we have already come to like the end of our time, Mike.
okay.
Can you believe that? A half an hour goes so fast. But thank you so much for chatting with us here today and sharing with our audience a little bit about yourself. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next time on Tea and Talk.